Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We've had about a week of really cool weather now here in Wisconsin. Not necessarily during the day, but we've got lows that are getting down into the 40s. Water temps here on some of these dark stained tannic lakes are dropping really quick. So I mean, we've got water temp here right around 60 degrees. A week ago it was probably about 70. It's still going to get up into the low 70s today, but our warm period of the day is really shortening. It's just, you know, we've got less daylight throughout the day right now. And a lot of these tannic stained lakes can have a really good bite before some of the other natural clear lakes in the area get going. So generally, like September can be really good for the tannic stained lakes. The clear lakes are much better in October and November. And one of the keys to that is a spinnerbait. The spinnerbait bite can be absolutely phenomenal on these tannic stained lakes. And I don't know what it is, other than I think a lot of times the fish start keying in on a little bit more of that forage that's a moving forage versus like your crayfish and things like that. But I'm really excited to get out and try this. So, you know, you've seen me talk about the Picasso titanium spinnerbaits. These are their free swinging series of spinnerbaits. These were ICAST release. But in the fall, I love to fish a big single Colorado blade like this in black nickel color. This is a 3/4 ounce, and I've paired it up with a Berkley paddle and power stinger. And I know a lot of you guys will say this is ugly. This is a color combination I've been having really good success on. This black and blue with this bright red colored trailer. I do it on my vibrating jigs. I do it on my spinner baits. It's just been really good for me. So I'm excited to try this. I think we're going to generate a few bites. You know, honestly, I'm not looking to catch a ton of fish, but this is one of those times when you can catch some really nice fish. So we're going to see. Maybe we strike out, maybe we catch 2, maybe we catch 10. I really don't know what to expect, but I don't have that much time. I do got to go pick the boys up from school here in a few hours, so we'll sling it around, see what we can generate. I got to tie it on a rod and see if we can catch a few. So when we put in at the ramp, there was one other boat who was taken out when we were there. He said he had been here all morning, fished 3 hours, and had 1 bite, which is not ideal. The funny thing is, like, in a weird way, guys, that always kind of motivates me, like gives you a little bit of a challenge. And it's always interesting to me how, you know, sometimes when you show up and somebody says that, that's the type of day it's going to be, a long, slow day. And some days you get out there and just start cracking on them. So I don't know, you know, it is what it is. I have no idea what he was doing, how he was fishing, where he was fishing, but we're just gonna do our own thing, throw this thing around. I mean, it feels so good. Like a big Colorado blade feels just like throwing a crankbait. Like if you look at my rod tip, it's just do just thumping away, and it's always a fun thing to fish. And you know, one other thing to point out too, one of the reasons I'm throwing a spinnerbait, a lot of our lakes will start getting, it's not necessarily LJ, it's just like a slimy moss on the bottom, so it becomes really hard to throw like a bottom bait or a crankbait, you know, like a jig or something, because if you were to pitch right into those thumps, half the time you end up getting snagged in that grass. Your bait comes back all balled up. You know, if you were to throw a crankbait, you'd make it about 2 feet and your hooks would just get gunked up in that stuff. So you're limited, in my opinion, to a lot more of your baits that are more moving baits that are staying off the bottom a little bit, you know, whether that's a vibrating jig or something, you know, just like a fluke or a wacky rig, something that you can kind of have a little bit more control over. Otherwise you'd just be picking off slime all day. But if you're willing to deal with it a little bit, you can bring your baits through some of these areas and still generate some good bites. God. Not a giant, but didn't take long to catch one. It's a nice one. He hit it. Felt like I just ran into some of that mossy stuff hanging off the stumps. It's hard, you know, you can see some of it sticking off the stumps. When you catch it, some of it's like a long strand up and off of it, and it just feels like almost like you ran into fishing line, and that's kind of what that bite felt like. Generally with a big single Colorado blade like this, they rip the rod out of your hand, but that guy did not do that. He almost fooled me. But we got the first bite out of the way. That didn't take long at all. Not a giant. He hit it hard though. I thought it was going to be a big one. Golly, you crushed it. That's a nice one. Golly. That's a nice bass right there, guys. Look at that one. Three and a quarter probably. Nice bass. That's why I'm doing this. He hit that thing so hard my hand slipped off the reel right on the edge of that pad line with that stump. This time of year they're almost always going to be related to some sort of hard cover. So like looking at that, you'd think, well, he could be on the pad line. The reality is that fish was right on that stump, which is actually running out into deeper water. It's not a stump, it's a laydown. And that's what they're relating to. Those hard objects grab the heat and hold heat. So ideally, if you have either, you know, wood or rock or posts or seawalls, things that'll grab the heat, are generally where you're going to be looking this time of year. It's similar to pre-spawn period. Those fish just want a little bit of heat. You know, it's similar to us. If you're feeling a little chilly and there's a bench sitting in the sun, you probably go sit on the bench that's sitting in the sun. Like, it's just not rocket science, but the hard objects will hold more heat than, say, the pad line. But man, he hammered that thing. That's one thing I'll say about throwing a bigger spinnerbait like this. You can see, look how scraped up we're getting, teeth marks on the head. I love it. God, that's such a fun bite. Oh God. That was awesome. You guys probably didn't see that, but I pumped the rod and it came up and flared under the surface and he hammered it. Oh God. Awesome. Awesome bite. Not even a big one, 14-incher, but what an awesome bite. Oh, it gets your heart pumping. I thought that was going to be a really big one too. This bait is just so fun because it just vibrates so hard. I mean, it feels like you're fishing like a vibrating jig or a square bill, something that's just got a ton of thump, which I don't personally think you normally get with a spinnerbait. But because it's just a big Colorado blade and that titanium blade, plus you throw in the fact that it's a free swinging, this is one of the biggest things. The free swinging head means that the blade underwater, the blade with this big thumping blade, or the wire, is actually going like this, and that's just creating so much more vibration. So you feel everything versus a normal spinnerbait. The other thing that I will say is the hookup ratio so far, you know, with me playing around with all these free swinging titanium Picasso swim baits, the hookup ratio is amazing. And I think that's because when you're retrieving it, the bait's swimming, the fish, no matter where they hit it from, when they go to hit it and they create that suction, the head, the whole jig head will swing into their mouth. Versus with a normal spinnerbait that's connected to the wire, they have to actually hit it or swing the whole bait into their mouth. And I just feel like you get such a better hookup ratio, because if they hit it from underneath, the bait will literally drop into their mouth. If they hit it from the side, it'll swing freely up into their mouth. And I mean, you can see the teeth marks all over this thing already. Oh, fun, 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 guys. I'm bringing spinnerbaits back. That's my goal. One thing to point out too, you know, being that this is the fall, a lot of these fish are looking for the warmer weather. So we've got bluebird skies, not a cloud up there. We've had it several days like this now, actually. And you would think a lot of these fish would be kind of out a little bit more, out on some of this deeper wood out here, which is in that 4 to 6 foot range. But really, in my opinion, what's happening, it's the same thing in the spring. Like, these fish are looking for warmth, and they're moving right up into this shallow stuff. Like, these pads starting 2 foot and just taper up into 0 water. And you know, if you can find a piece of wood along them, it seems to be generating a bite for me. But I honestly believe these fish slide up into the really shallow stuff, because that water is going to warm a lot faster. Now, if we had windy, kind of overcast, rainy conditions, I would expect to be catching those fish on the wood that's out offshore behind me, just because there'd be no reason for those fish to move shallow. But I still feel like these fish do slide around quite a bit. You know, right now the water's not that cool at all. I mean, like I said, it's low 60s, but they still want to find a little bit warmer water, especially when you're talking about water temperatures that are dropping slightly. Like, they like to cling on to those warmer temps. But just something to keep in mind, you know, first thing in the morning, I probably would be fishing that stuff that's out a little bit deeper. But being that it's warmer right now, I think those fish are sliding up. Yes. Feels good. Oh yeah. Nice one. Come here. Long and skinny. Long and skinny. Well, guys, I think we're gonna end on that note. Catching a bunch of fish. It's that kind of that late October or late September kind of tough fishing time period. Throwing this big single Colorado bladed titanium swinging spinnerbait by Picasso. So fun. Such a fun bite. I'd say if you like throwing spinnerbaits, you need to try this thing, because it is one of the hardest vibrating spinnerbaits I've ever felt. And it produces fish. I mean, you guys can see with it being the titanium, bait's still in great shape. Bait's still, I don't know how many you can catch on these things before they break, but the point is they're well worth the money. High quality spinnerbait, made in the USA. I love them. And I'm gonna get back to fishing. I got a little bit more time before I gotta go get the boys. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all the support, and stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.